Well, it's great to be here to celebrate Hanamatsuri with all of you. I grew up in the East Bay, as you heard, in El Cerrito and in the Berkeley area. We have friends here in Sacramento, so we come here once in a while. Clyde and Tammy Uchida sitting back there, and I see their daughters are back there too. So thank you all. Thank you guys for coming. I want to talk about a trip that my wife and I and a small group of temple members took a year ago, in January, to India. We visited Buddhist sites over there. It's been my lifelong dream to actually go to the place where the Buddha was enlightened and see those areas and pay my respects. And so I'd just like to talk about that experience and I think it'll help give you more of a feeling for Prince Siddhartha's life and for the Buddha. Let me ask you a question. Where was the Buddha born? What was that? In Lumbini's garden. And where is Lumbini's garden? In Nepal. Very good. You're very very educated group of people there. Because I think people might say India, right? Northern India. Because at the time the Buddha was born, it was part of the Indian kingdom. And Nepal wasn't a country back then. So for people to say that the Buddha was born in India kind of drives people in Nepal crazy. And the area that we visited, it's near the northern border of India, near the Nepal border, but we did not visit Lumbini's garden, which is one of the holy sites in Buddhism, because it was in another country and it would have taken more time and it's more trouble. So unfortunately we didn't go there, but we did go to Bodh Gaya, which was where the Buddha was enlightened, and which is just on this side, on the India side of the border, and some other places. But anybody been to India? Oh yes, you know what I'm talking about here. But India, before we went, I think most people who came with us it was not in their minds to ever visit India really, but because I had proposed this trip that I think most of the people went. And I myself didn't think I had an opportunity to go until maybe later on in life after I retire or got older, but then my wife said, if we're going to go to India, we should go, and we should go soon, because it's a challenging place to travel. And but I highly recommend it. India is such a fascinating place because it is so different than the Western world, and especially the area of Bihar state, which is where the Buddhist sites are located. And Bihar state is considered one of the poorest, and maybe the poorest state in India, which is telling you a lot. And as you drive through the countryside, through the villages, the roads are paved, but there's dirt everywhere else. We take pavement and concrete for granted, but that costs money. So the roads are paved, but the villages are like, you see homes that are built out of the local clay with windows, but no glass in the windows, just holes. But the weather's warm, so you don't need to close up the house that way. And then there's dirt everywhere, there's animals everywhere. And cows, they're famous for their cows, and they're just walking the streets, treated very well because they're considered holy. And goats, chickens, there's monkeys running around. There are monkeys in these cities and towns in India that are in the trees, that are on rooftops, and you'll see monkeys like we see squirrels here. Right? So we'll see squirrels in the park, they see monkeys. And I swear, in the entire state of Bihar, I didn't see a single store like we know it, like a 7-Eleven or a Safeway, that food is sold from stands and from carts, like fruits and vegetables, would be sold from a cart that's maybe pulled by a water buffalo or pulled by a person. And there are fruit stands, like stalls, or people just squatting down on the side of the road with a blanket on the ground with bowls of spices that you could buy. And and for energy, well, with so many cows, you would think that maybe the streets are dirty with manure, but people collect the cow manure and they make patties out of them, dry them in the sun, and then use those cow patties as fuel. And so they burn these patties and make fires, and they'll cook food on them or for heat when it gets cool. So this is how I imagine the Buddha's time must have looked, that these people lived not that much differently than during the time of the Buddha. And so we went to Bodh Gaya, which is kind of like a Disneyland for Buddhists, I'd say, because if you were to pick one place that is, we would call the holiest place for Buddhists to visit, such as for Muslims, Mecca would be the holy place to visit, or for Christians, Jerusalem might be the holiest place to visit. The holiest place for Buddhists, I think, would be Bodh Gaya, which is where the Bodhi tree is located, and where the Buddha was enlightened. And Bodh Gaya had started out as a little village, but now it's been built up. I won't call it a city, but a town that is quite lively. There are many Buddhist temples there, built by various groups from different countries. So there's a Chinese Buddhist temple, a Japanese Buddhist temple, Tibetan, Sri Lankan, Buddhists from Nepal, and many different countries. And so you see Buddhists walking around all over the place, and you see strange signs such as Siddhartha guest house, or Buddha a hair salon. And during the time we went, there were many Tibetan Buddhist monks walking around, so many monks wearing the red robes, because the Dalai Lama was there, and he was supposed to go to the Bodh Gaya temple, the Mahabodhi temple, which is where the Buddha was enlightened. And that temple looks like it's a stone monument that's about 4 stories tall, and it's narrow, kind of like the Washington Monument, but it has these geometric carvings on the side, so like circles and squares, and then little carvings of like Buddhas. And it's just made of, it looks like a sandstone, so it looks ancient, almost prehistoric, and something you might see out of Indiana Jones movie. Because you walk through this area, it's kind of forested, and then all of a sudden you see this huge monument, a stone monument. And then you can actually go inside where there's a sitting Buddha, but the main area is really outside around that area, and behind it is the Bodhi tree, or a descendant of the Bodhi tree. The actual Bodhi tree actually died, but then it's said that a seedling from that original Bodhi tree became this next Bodhi tree. So there are, this being the holiest site, Buddhists from all over the world are there, and they're surrounding this big temple, and they're showing their greatest respect. And the greatest respect in the Theravada tradition, for example, is to do a full bow. You know, in Japanese culture, there's different degrees of a bow, right? If you're just bowing to a friend, you might bow like this. If you bow to your parents, you're going to go deeper. If you're bowing to the emperor, you have to go 90 degrees, like this, right? Well, to do a full bow for a Buddhist at the holiest place, they actually kneel down and then stretch out on their belly with their hands forward like this. So their legs are straight, they're lying flat on their belly like this. This is a full bow, a full prostration. That's as deep as you can go. And so it's showing your greatest respect for this place where the Buddha was enlightened. And so it said that, just before we went there, a short kind of a tuk-tuk, this auto rickshaw ride away, is a small mound which marks the spot where Siddhartha had practiced extreme asceticism. He had fasted and meditated, and he had done these austerities with 5 ascetics. So this is the period of time, about 6 years, where he lived in the forest and he tried to achieve some kind of understanding and enlightenment through these extreme practices. And it said that he became so thin, and there are legendary stories about him, just symbolic stories where it said that he only ate 1 grain of rice, every 3 days, something like that. And so there's a famous statue of him sitting in meditation where he looks like a skeleton. And you can look this up, you can Google it, Siddhartha during his ascetic phase, where he's sitting there and he looks like a skeleton. And he became so weak that he collapsed. And he was on the verge of death when a young girl, offered him a bowl of porridge, which helped him regain his strength. That girl's name was Sujata. So at this spot where Siddhartha received this bowl of porridge is a mound, which marks that spot. So you can visit that site as well. And it said that after the 5 ascetics saw Siddhartha take this food, they thought that he had given up this path that they were on, and they turned their backs on him and left him. And so he then, on his own, he walked a short distance to the spot and sat underneath this tree where he began to meditate. And so this is the story. And to actually go to these places where this historical story actually took place is just something that I think all of you should try to experience someday. And you really get a sense of the person and the teacher. And after that, we got on a bus and we took a highway road, which sometimes became like a highway here. I mean, where the bus could go pretty fast, but fast over there probably means about 50 miles an hour. But nevertheless, it was a 6-hour bus ride to this next stop called Sarnath. And Sarnath is right next to the city of Varanasi. Varanasi's ancient name was Benares. And Benares is considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. So Benares is at least 2,500 years old, maybe even 3,000 years old, where people have continuously lived in this place. And it's considered one of the holy cities in Hinduism. So in Benares is right next to the Ganges River, and a lot of scenes that you'll see in tour shows about India and the Ganges is in Varanasi, this city, where people are bathing in the river, and you see cremations right there, right next to the river. And and there are cows everywhere, and many people, and narrow streets, and people honking their horns, and people on bicycles. and wild dogs running around and people selling things, and it's just a crazy place. But many spiritual seekers there. You see holy men there making offerings and doing rituals right next to the river. So we had gone by bus to Sarnath, which is right next to Varanasi, because we were going to the place where the Buddha gave his first sermon. And so on our way there, we're driving down this one road, and then the tour guide points out there's a mound marking an important spot with a fence around it. And the tour guide said, that is the spot where the Buddha, after he became enlightened, met with the 5 ascetics who had left him and explained his enlightenment. That's the first time the Buddha spoke about his enlightenment, was to the 5 ascetics. And so the bus is like going by the site. So I take out my camera, but we don't stop. And I'm like, hey, slow down. And I'm trying to take a picture, right? And I'm like, why aren't we stopping at this place, you know? Because that wasn't our main destination. Our main destination was farther down the road. And there was a park, the deer park, and there's probably like a 5-story monument there made of bricks. And then, so this huge thing. And there was a group of Thai tourists there with some monks, and they're sitting on the grass right next to this big monument, and they're chanting, and other people are there. A much more important site than the other site that we had just passed. And it suddenly hit me that this was the spot where the Buddha addressed a group of 60 people and gave his first Dharma talk. So on our way to, during that 6-hour bus ride that we took to Sarnath, we're going down this one highway, and I'm staring out the window, and all of a sudden I see a naked man. He's old, he has long white hair, long white beard. He has a stick, a walking stick, completely naked. And he's walking down there like this. No shoes, nothing, like this. And behind him are 3 men dressed in rags. And so I'm like, what's with the naked guy, you know? And then the tour guide said, oh, did you see the naked man? He is a holy man. Right? And it turned out he practiced this ancient form of Jainism, which is a religion that is as old as Buddhism. And during the Buddha's time, there were many naked holy men. And even today, there are many naked holy men. But, and this form of Jainism that they follow is a path in which they are encouraged to live the simplest life that they can. So even clothes are a luxury. So they eat very simply, they just sleep directly on the ground. And this is the religion that's famous for they don't even want to kill bugs, even by accident. So they very carefully look on the ground and look where they sit. They don't even want to crush bugs. So what they eat, they try to eat foods in which they don't kill living things. And so they'll only eat the byproducts of plants so that the plants can stay alive. So they'll pick fruit or nuts, but they won't dig up any roots for fear of killing insects or killing the plant. So such is their life. And the 3 men behind this naked holy man were his disciples. So when I got to Sarnath and I saw this big monument and I saw this is where the Buddha addressed his first group, large group of people, and explained his understanding about life. I understood this place was much, much more important than that first place where Siddhartha, where the Buddha met with the 5 ascetics. Because had the Buddha just met with the 5 ascetics and those 5 ascetics became his followers, and if he would have stopped there, he would be no different than the naked holy man. Just have his own small set of followers and just pursue their own enlightenment for themselves. And there are still today thousands of naked holy men and just holy men with clothes in India with their own set of followers. And the Buddha would have been just another one of them. And it's because the Buddha addressed a big group of people, a group of 60 it said, that group became the first Sangha. So that place in Sarna was really the birthplace of the Sangha. And really, to me, perhaps we can say the birthplace of Buddhism, of the religion of Buddhism as we know it. So to think that that is the spot, that is the birthplace of Buddhism, that is the birthplace of the Sangha. And to really understand and to realize the importance of it, and to think about this temple here and all the people in it. We are a Sangha here, right, in Sacramento. And this Sangha would not exist had these events in this place 2,500 years ago, had they not happened. This Sangha is directly connected to those events. Well, many things happened before, but there has been no break in that connection, which is why this Sangha could be established here, and which is why we are here today. It is a great event that directly relates to us. When I finally got to go to Bodh Gaya, the place where the Buddha was enlightened, at each stop, I tried to explain to our group the significance of the place, and to help them appreciate, these sites that we were visiting. And I tried to explain the historical significance and some of the teachings about Buddhism, and I just wanted them to feel more of a connection to what we were doing and not just feel like sightseers. And so when we got to Bodh Gaya and we're standing in front of the Mahabodhi temple, this big stone monument, I turned to them, and words could not come out of my mouth. And I began to cry. And I didn't expect this at all. And words failed me because suddenly I felt, this is the place that I dreamed that I could visit. And this place is important to me. And maybe I didn't really understand how important it was to me until I got there. And I realized that had that event not occurred 2,500 years ago, had Siddhartha not sat underneath that tree and came to this awakening about life, that we would not have this path, this spiritual path that we follow today. And what is this path? What is this awakening that the Buddha had? The Buddha just sat there. He just sat there underneath that tree. And he came to an understanding. So the only thing that happened underneath that tree was that between his 2 ears, in his head, something changed. Something awakened. His perception changed, his perception about life. He didn't become a great teacher. He didn't become famous because he created something, like Steve Jobs, the personal computer, or because he discovered something, like some great explorer, or because he gained great wealth of money and built castles, or gave money away. None of these things he accomplished. The only thing that happened was a change in his thinking. And that change in his thinking was that he understood that the key to understanding life is not reaching out and changing the world. It's not satisfying our desires, trying to get things in life, to acquire material possessions, or to acquire power, or to chase after our desires, which are endless. His great understanding in life was that he was given this precious life, and he saw all the causes and conditions that created this life, and he realized that his life was very precious and important, and that he should really appreciate his connection to all of these things around him. And he became really grateful for this life, and he wanted to share this understanding with other people. So this is the key for us today to unlock our, or to help us find an answer to our search for meaning, and to help us deal with our suffering and with problems in our life. It's not, we're not going to solve our problems by getting something out of life outside of ourselves. That this solution to our problem lies right in our heads, and to change our perception. Change our perception. So this was the important wisdom that the Buddha gained underneath that tree, and that we can learn from, and that helps guide us today in this life. So this is, I think, the reason why I got so emotional. So I'm standing there, I'm trying to explain something, and I'm crying, and someone yells out, "Group hug!" So our tour group of 14 people, we got together, we're like all hugging each other in front of the Mahabodhi temple like a football team, like, like this. And other people started to cry. You know, people are thanking me, "Oh, thank you for bringing me to this place." And I think everyone felt it was a great experience to go there. But before we had gone there, you know, people were complaining, "Oh, what kind of place is India? It's so dirty. I don't want to get sick, and it's hard to travel. And why would I want to go there? I'd rather go to visit Paris." But it is so important, such an important place, and it's directly connected to who we are, what we do in this life, and this temple, and this sangha, and to us as individuals. So there's a symbolic meaning to observing Hanamatsuri, and there's also a real practical meaning to observing Hanamatsuri, and that is, if Siddhartha had not been born, had not Sujata saved his life by serving him some food and nursing him back to health, had not all these things happened, we would not be here today. So on this day of Hanamatsuri, let us truly, truly thank the one that we call our teacher, which is Shakyamuni Buddha, and be grateful for this life and for everyone in it. And may you all find this path, and let's walk it together, and really come to an understanding about who we are and what this life is all about, and really, really be grateful for it. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida desu. Namo Amida desu. Namo Amida desu. Thank you very much.